It's Amy Klobuchar up against Josh Hawley in this 2024 presidential matchup. Today on Political Access, we're going to play this out, even though it's never going to happen. So we've got two senators here, Minnesota up against Missouri, and I think this is actually a pretty good battle. It was a tough one for me. I spent some time on it, and there's some different ways you could take it, and we'll talk more about it at the end. But let's get started here in Alaska. That is going to be safe for Josh Hawley. Hawaii, of course, it's going to be safe for Amy Klobuchar. Back up to the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, safe for Klobuchar. Nevada, tilt for Hawley. Idaho and Utah, safe for Hawley. Arizona, tilt for Klobuchar. Montana, Wyoming, safe for Hawley. Colorado, that'll be about 9.5 points, maybe up to 10, likely for Klobuchar. New Mexico, mid-single digits, likely for Klobuchar. North and South Dakota, safe for Hawley. Nebraska at large, that's going to be safe for Hawley. The 2nd District, that's going to be leans for Klobuchar, probably about 5 points. Kansas and Oklahoma, safe for Hawley. Texas, likely for Hawley. Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar's home state, she would win that easily, and I think it would be by double digits, safe for Klobuchar. How about in Iowa? That state has the luxury of bordering both Minnesota and Missouri. It's much redder than Minnesota, but not as red as Missouri. I think in this matchup, it would be mid-single digits, likely for Hawley. Josh Hawley's home state of Missouri, of course the opposite of Minnesota, it would go safe for Hawley. Arkansas, Louisiana, safe for Hawley. How about Wisconsin? This is a tough call. It does border Minnesota. I think Wisconsin has a little bit more in common culturally and politically with Minnesota than it does with Missouri. So in the end, I settled on a tilt for Klobuchar. Illinois, safe for Klobuchar. Let's head over to Michigan next. Leans for Klobuchar. Indiana, safe for Hawley. Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, safe for Hawley. How about Florida? I think that would be mid-single digits, likely for Hawley. Georgia is another very tough call for me. I think it could go either way, but in the end, I settled on a tilt for Hawley. South Carolina, safe for Hawley. North Carolina leans for Hawley. Up to Ohio, that's going to be mid, maybe even high single digits, likely for Hawley. West Virginia, safe for Hawley. Up to Maine, at large, likely for Klobuchar. The 1st District, safe for Klobuchar. The 2nd District, that's more Trump-friendly, and I think it could get over 5 points, likely for Hawley. New Hampshire, that's going to be leans for Amy Klobuchar, probably about 4.5 to 5 points. Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., over 10 points, safe for Klobuchar. How about Pennsylvania? That I think could be anywhere from 1 to 3 points, leans for Klobuchar. And finally, the last state is Virginia, and that'll be over 5 points, less than 10, likely for Klobuchar. And that's the map. And that comes out to 281 for Amy Klobuchar, 257 for Josh Hawley. So Amy Klobuchar narrowly wins this. Now let's talk a little bit about it. Let's start with charisma, personality, however you want to put it. Personally, I think neither of these candidates have much of it. Now, sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't. Josh Hawley, he's a relatively new senator. He is more in line with the Trump wing, but there's not much flair to Hawley. He's also not bombastic, and he's not as off-putting and confrontational as Trump. I think the opposition to Hawley, which would be the establishment media, all the Democrats, and of course some of the Republicans, that would find the worst things Hawley has said, and they would run on that, going for the full scare tactics. Now Hawley, some of you like him, some of you don't like him, but I don't think he's your run-of-the-mill senator. I think there's a little bit more to him than a no-name senator from some other states. Now Amy Klobuchar, on the other hand, when it comes to charisma and personality, I think she's pretty much on the bottom tier. I don't think she's going to excite anybody. Progressives are not going to come out for Klobuchar whatsoever, and that's a big unknown for me. That could cost her 1 or 2 more points in some of these states, and Hawley actually could end up winning this. Klobuchar is very bland in my opinion. She'd probably be better as a running mate. I don't think she would do well with black voters or Hispanic voters. I think she would do better along the coast, the establishment Democratic areas, and the wealthier, higher educated areas in the Northeast, including New Hampshire. I don't think they would go for someone like Josh Hawley. He's going to shake up the system a little bit more, for better or for worse, than Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar is pure status quo for me, but she would not be viewed as overly controversial. She would probably be painted as the safe, sane choice, someone who's not going to rock the boat too much, sort of like Joe Biden would be in my opinion. Some elections, that helps. Some elections, it doesn't. If it's a change type of election, then Klobuchar, I think, would lose. because again, she's not really going to speak to any new voters. She's not going to fire anybody up. Josh Hawley, he's going to get out a lot of those Trump voters. I think they would come out for him. I think he would be competitive in the Rust Belt. But would he be branded as a little bit too scary for the suburban swing voters and independents? That's hard to say. We got to know what issues they would run on. I think Hawley would be less afraid to tackle controversial topics and issues. Amy Klobuchar, I don't think she wants to get into as much of the controversial stuff as someone like Hawley. Then again, this could go either way, depending on what the issues are, depending on who the running mate is, depending on the national environment. I would not count Josh Hawley out. I think his name recognition is a little bit lower than Klobuchar's. Klobuchar's been around a while, but I'm sure a lot of people who don't follow politics, they probably don't even really know who she is. So some of these states are debatable. Certainly Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, those are tilts, and I could see them swinging by a couple of points either way. Hawley has an accent that would, I think, help him a little bit more in the South. Klobuchar being from Minnesota, I don't think she has that much of an accent, but I think she would relate less to people culturally in the South and in the West. So there are some competitive states on here, and there's different routes you could take it. This is the route I settled on. Let me know in the comments. Which of these states and which of these margins would you change? Do you have Josh Hawley winning it because Amy Klobuchar is just not going to excite anybody? Or do you have Amy Klobuchar winning by a larger margin because Josh Hawley is too scary for voters in the middle? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.